Welcome, friends. The storm outside is fierce tonight, the thunder cracking like a warning. But here, within these words, I have a story, a gift for you, a gift that will guide you through the dark, calm your mind, and help you drift off to sleep. Despite the storm's roar, just remember, the rain might be scary, but you're safe here. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, so you never miss the next tale. Now close your eyes and let's begin. It was a quiet town. One of those places where everyone knows everyone and nothing ever seems out of the ordinary. The kind of place you move to when you want peace and solitude. That's exactly why I came here. I needed to start over. Escape the noise of the city and the chaos of my past. I found a small, affordable apartment at the end of Maple Street. It was perfect, secluded, on the edge of town, with nothing but woods behind it. The neighbors were quiet, the streets empty, and I thought I'd found a little slice of heaven. But it wasn't long before I started noticing something strange. The apartment complex wasn't very big, only 6 units, all spread out along a single row. Most of the tenants kept to themselves, but there was one that stood out. Mr. Peterson. He lived across the hall from me, in the unit directly opposite mine. He wasn't a bad guy, not by any means. In fact, he was nice enough, always smiling, always saying hello when we crossed paths in the hallway. But that was just it. He was always too nice, too calm. There was something about him that didn't sit right with me. At first I thought I was just being paranoid, like I always was. You know, when you've been through enough, your mind starts playing tricks on you. You start seeing things that aren't there. But the thing is, Mr. Peterson, as friendly as he was, never spoke much. And when he did, it was never about anything important. He didn't have friends over, never seemed to have any visitors at all. He'd just sit in his apartment, quiet, like he didn't exist outside those walls. Then one night, things changed. I was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, when I heard it. The sound of scratching, faint at first, just barely audible. It sounded like something or someone was dragging their nails across the wall. I turned my head toward the wall, separating my apartment from Mr. Peterson's. The scratching continued, and then it stopped. Just like that. No more scratching. I tried to convince myself it was just the old building settling, or maybe an animal, but something about the silence that followed made me uneasy. Like the sound had been intentional, like someone was trying to get my attention. The next day, I saw Mr. Peterson in the hallway. He greeted me, like usual, his smile wide and unbothered. "How'd you sleep?" he asked, his voice a little too cheerful. I didn't say anything at first. The words didn't feel right on my tongue, like something was stopping me from telling him the truth. But I had to know. "You didn't hear anything last night, did you?" I asked cautiously, trying to keep the question light. Like scratching on the walls. His expression didn't change. He looked at me for a moment, then shook his head. "No, nothing like that," he replied, his voice almost too smooth. "I've been in a deep sleep for the past few nights." Honestly, I nodded, my mind racing. Something wasn't adding up, but that wasn't the end of it. That night, the scratching returned. This time it was louder, more frantic. The sound of nails scraping against the wall was unmistakable, like someone was desperately trying to claw their way out. I felt my heart race. I tried to ignore it, to turn up the volume on my TV, but the sound didn't stop. It just kept getting louder and louder until it felt like it was coming from right under my bed. I got up. I had to see for myself. Maybe it was just a pipe, or a rodent, or even the house settling again. But as I stood in the hallway, trying to calm myself, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Mr. Peterson's door was ajar, just a crack, a sliver of darkness on the other side. I didn't think, I just acted. I walked over to the door, my hand shaking as I reached out to push it open. The door creaked loudly, as if it hadn't been touched in years. Inside, everything was still. The apartment was clean, too clean, like it hadn't been lived in for months. The lights were off, but the window curtains were drawn open, letting a sliver of moonlight spill onto the floor. The walls were covered in scratches, not just little marks, but deep, jagged scratches, like someone had been scraping at them for hours. Days, maybe. I stepped closer, the air in the apartment heavy and cold. Then I heard it again, the scratching. I turned toward the back of the apartment, my heart in my throat. And there in the corner, standing just beyond the shadows, was Mr. Peterson. His back was to me, his hands pressed flat against the wall, as if he were trying to dig through it. His head slowly turned toward me, and for the first time, I saw his eyes. They were wide, unblinking, hollow. Something in me screamed to run. The rain's still pouring, and that thunder's really something, huh? But don't let it distract you. Let's keep going with the story. And hey, before we dive deeper, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. You wouldn't want to miss what comes next, right? I froze. Mr. Peterson's eyes locked onto mine, but they weren't the eyes I had seen before. The warmth, the smile, the calm, none of that was there now. His pupils were dilated, the whites of his eyes almost glowing in the dim light. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the air thick with something I couldn't place. He didn't move at first. His hands remained pressed against the wall, his head still tilted, as if he were waiting for something or someone. And then, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke. You heard it, didn't you? His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the tension like a knife. I swallowed, trying to steady my breath. What? I stammered, my mind scrambling for the right words, but they all came out wrong. What are you talking about? He tilted his head slightly, almost as if studying me. His smile didn't return, but his expression softened for just a second. A fleeting moment of something that resembled normal. The scratching, he said again. His tone calm, but there was an edge to it now. I nodded, the fear creeping up my spine. I don't understand. What is it? Why is it coming from your apartment? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a slow step back, pulling away from the wall. I noticed now that his hands were covered in something. Dried, dark smudges. I couldn't tell if it was dirt or something worse. His gaze shifted toward the floor, and I saw him look at his feet, like he was afraid to step away from that spot. There are things that live in this building, he said, his voice flat, emotionless. Things that can't be explained. They've been here long before either of us. Before you. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I wanted to run. I should have run. But I couldn't. Something in his voice, something about the way he spoke, kept me rooted to the spot. Things? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. What things? Are you saying, this place is haunted? He shook his head slowly. No, not haunted. It's alive. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I couldn't quite grasp. His words weren't just unsettling. They felt wrong, like they didn't belong in this world. There was something beneath them, a darkness, something older than the building itself. I took a step forward, despite my better judgment. What's alive? What are you talking about? For a moment, it looked like he was about to speak again, but then his eyes flicked toward the door, as if listening to something outside. His expression tightened, and I could see the tension building in his jaw. "You need to leave," he said quickly, his voice rising slightly in urgency. Now, before I could ask another question, he stepped past me, moving toward the door. I turned instinctively, watching him, my mind still reeling from the cryptic things he'd said. The scratching, the things in the building, the feeling of dread that hung in the air. "Peterson," I called after him, but my voice faltered. "What's going on here? Why are you doing this?" He stopped at the door, his back to me. For a second, I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, slowly, he turned, his face shadowed in the dim light of the apartment. "You don't understand," he said quietly, almost too softly. "But you will. You'll understand when it comes for you." I felt a chill creep down my spine. But before I could ask any more questions, the door slammed shut behind him. The sound was so loud it made me jump, echoing through the empty apartment. I stood there for a long moment, my breath shallow, my mind spinning with confusion and fear. I didn't know what to think anymore. What had I just seen? What had I heard? I tried to tell myself it was just some kind of delusion, that Mr. Peterson was just unwell. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the truth. His words, his eyes, the way he'd stood there, they were real. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was in this building, something waiting, watching. The scratching came again that night. But this time, it wasn't just from Mr. Peterson's apartment. It was everywhere. It echoed from the walls, the ceiling, the floor. It was like the building itself was alive, stretching, breathing. The sounds were all around me, close, almost like they were coming from within the walls, from the very air. I tried to ignore it. I tried to block it out, but the fear was too strong. I didn't feel safe in my own apartment anymore. It felt wrong. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear it. The sound of nails scraping, moving, twisting in ways that didn't make sense. I didn't know how much longer I could stay there. I couldn't sleep. The scratching had intensified. It wasn't just a random sound anymore. It was deliberate, a rhythmic pattern that echoed through the walls, filling every corner of the apartment. It was coming from the floor, the ceiling, the walls, and I realized with a cold jolt that it wasn't just in Mr. Peterson's apartment. It was everywhere, like it was coming from the very heart of the building itself. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just the building settling, or old pipes groaning. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that. I had felt it the moment I stepped into the hallway that first day. Something was wrong here. Something wasn't right. I had to know the truth. The next morning, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't just stay in the dark, hoping it would all stop. It was time to confront Mr. Peterson again. I needed to hear him say it. The truth, whatever it was. I needed to hear him explain what was happening, what he meant by it, the thing that was alive in this building. I walked down the hallway to his apartment, my heart pounding with every step. I stood in front of his door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. For a moment, I hesitated. What if he didn't want to talk anymore? What if he was lying? What if I shook the thoughts away and knocked? The silence that followed was suffocating. No footsteps, no sounds from inside the apartment. I knocked again, harder this time. The door creaked open slightly, just a crack, and then through the gap, I saw him. Mr. Peterson stood there, just on the other side, his eyes flickering toward me with a mixture of reluctance and something darker. His face was drawn, gaunt, as though he hadn't slept in days. His hands, the ones I'd seen covered in the strange dark smudges, were now clean. But there was something in his posture, a subtle tension in the way he held himself, that told me he wasn't okay. "What do you want?" His voice was quieter than usual, strained. "I need to know what's going on," I said, my voice unsteady. "Why is it happening? What's in this building?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. His gaze flicked past me down the hallway, then back to the floor. Finally, he spoke, his voice almost a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." His words were filled with a strange urgency, like he was warning me away from something I couldn't yet see. "It's not just the scratching, it's everything in this building. The walls, the floors, the doors, they're all part of it." "Part of what?" I asked, unable to contain my frustration. "What the hell are you talking about? What's alive in this building?" Mr. Peterson's face twitched, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, raw, unfiltered fear. He stepped back, opening the door wider, and motioned for me to come in. I hesitated, my gut telling me to turn and run. But curiosity and fear got the better of me, and I stepped inside. The apartment was different now. The sterile cleanliness that had once defined it was gone. The air felt thick, oppressive, like I was walking into a tomb. The walls, those damn walls, were covered in marks, scratches, not just on the surface, but deeper, like something had ripped through them. It looked like something had tried to claw its way out. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "What happened in here?" I asked, barely able to form the words. "What did you do?" Mr. Peterson didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the far corner of the room, where a large cabinet stood. He reached inside, his hands shaking, and pulled out an old, tattered journal. He handed it to me. "Read it," he said quietly. "It's all in there. The truth about this place." I took the journal, my hands trembling as I opened the first page. The writing was frantic, slanted, as if written in haste, with barely legible words, but it was clear enough to understand. The building is alive, not in the way we are, not in the way that we think. It feeds, it watches, it waits, and when it has you, when it has your soul, it will never let go. The words twisted in my gut as I read on. "We made a deal, you see, a long time ago, a pact with something ancient, something that shouldn't exist, and in exchange for what we wanted, wealth, power, protection, we gave it a piece of ourselves, a piece of our lives, and now we are bound to it. Trapped in this place, in these walls." I closed the journal, my heart hammering in my chest. "Peterson," I began, my voice barely a whisper, "what did you do?" His eyes darted around the room, his body tense, like he was afraid the walls were listening. "We made the deal," he said, his voice low and shaking. "They made it, and now it wants more. It's never satisfied. It feeds on fear. It grows stronger with every soul it consumes." He paused. "And it's coming for you. It already knows your name." I felt a cold chill crawl up my spine. "I don't believe you," but deep down in the pit of my stomach, I knew it was true. "You have to leave, Mr. Peterson said urgently, grabbing my arm. "You can't stay. If you do, it will take you. It will." But he was cut off by a sudden violent thud that reverberated through the room. I spun around, my heart racing. The scratching had returned. But this time, it wasn't just on the walls. It was everywhere. The floorboards creaked under the pressure. and I could feel the very building shifting, like it was waking up, coming to life. "Get out of here, Mr. Peterson shouted, shoving me toward the door. His face was pale, panic-stricken. "It's too late. It's too late for both of us." The scratching grew louder, frantic, and then there was a low guttural sound, something like a growl, coming from deep within the walls. Before I could move, the lights flickered and went out. The room was plunged into complete darkness, and then I heard it, a voice. "You can't escape." It was coming from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the air itself, and it was coming for me. The darkness closed in around me like a suffocating blanket. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't even hear my own breathing for a moment, like the air had been sucked out of the room. My heart was thudding in my chest, and I was paralyzed. The growl, that horrible sound coming from the walls, echoed louder. It felt like the building itself was alive, its veins pulsing beneath the floors and the plaster. I could hear Mr. Peterson's voice, panicked and urgent, just a few feet away, but it sounded distant, as though he was speaking through a wall. "Run," he screamed. "Get out of here." But where could I go? The entire apartment felt like it was alive, shifting, breathing, pushing in on me. The scratching noise was deafening now, like claws raking against the very foundation of the building. My legs were frozen. I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then, just as suddenly as the darkness had swallowed us, the lights flickered back on. But when I looked around, I realized we weren't alone. The apartment, the room, had changed. The walls, once solid and safe, now looked wrong. The plaster was cracked and split open, revealing something dark, like an empty void stretching deep into the heart of the building. The shadows had grown longer, twisted, and they were moving, shifting as if they were aware of us, watching us. I heard the scraping again, louder now, and something moved in the corner of my eye. I spun around. There, in the farthest corner of the room, standing in the shadows, was a figure, tall, thin, cloaked in darkness. I could barely make out its shape, but I could feel its presence. It was watching me, and I knew, without a doubt, that it wasn't human. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet were glued to the floor, my body unwilling to obey. The figure took a step forward, its movements slow, deliberate, almost hungry. Mr. Peterson stood frozen beside me, his eyes wide with fear, his hands shaking as he backed away slowly. "It's here," he whispered, voice trembling. "It's coming for you." I turned to him, my mind racing, but the words caught in my throat. "What is it? What the hell is it, Peterson?" He couldn't answer me. Instead, he let out a low, strained breath, his gaze flickering nervously between me and the thing in the corner. His face had gone ashen, and I could see him trembling. "It's not just one," he finally said, his voice breaking. "It's been here for so long. The building, it feeds on us. It takes what it wants. And we've all been part of it." I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. The figure was moving toward us now, its form distorting, shifting in ways that weren't possible, like it was made of darkness itself. It didn't have eyes, no mouth, but I could feel it, the weight of its gaze. I could feel its hunger. "We can't escape it, James," Mr. Peterson said, stepping back further. "None of us can." I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet again, and the darkness in the corners of the room seemed to grow, extending toward us, inch by inch. The walls groaned, a sound like they were cracking open. The air grew heavier, like something was pushing against us, suffocating us. I backed away slowly, my breath shallow, my pulse quickening. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" I spat, trying to fight the fear rising in my chest. "Why didn't you warn me about this place?" He didn't answer. He couldn't, because he knew, just as I did, that the truth was too much to bear. That whatever this thing was, it had been waiting, feeding off the people who lived here. The tenants were all part of it, sacrifices, in a sense bound to the building, and whatever dark force controlled it. "We're part of the cycle," Mr. Peterson whispered, his voice almost a sob now. "The deal, it never ends. We can't leave." "You won't be able to leave either. It's already claimed you, James." I turned to him, desperate. "How do we stop it?" His eyes filled with hopelessness, and he took a step back, retreating further into the shadows. "You can't stop it. It feeds on us until there's nothing left, and then it finds another." The figure was almost upon us now, its dark shape looming in front of me. I felt the cold seeping into my bones, my body going numb. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I couldn't move. The darkness had already begun to swallow everything, wrapping around me like a heavy fog. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the lights flickered one more time. This time, they didn't go back on. The apartment was plunged into absolute darkness. I heard Mr. Peterson's frantic breathing, and then a low voice from behind me. It wasn't Mr. Peterson. It wasn't the figure. "You belong to it now." The voice was cold, empty, and it seemed to come from the very walls. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the words. The ground beneath me shifted again, and the floor gave way, dropping me into nothingness. A void. But this time, I didn't feel fear. I felt calm. It was as if everything had been decided, as if the building had won. I hit the ground hard, but the fall didn't hurt. Instead, I was surrounded by something different. Not darkness, not light, but something in between. And then, a voice, so clear, so close. "Welcome home." I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The void I'd fallen into was neither dark nor light. It was alive. The air felt thick, saturated with something ancient, something that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of my own heartbeat. I couldn't see anything, but I felt it. The walls of this place, or whatever it was, pressed against me, like the building itself was alive, wrapping me in its cold, suffocating embrace. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My mouth was dry, my body frozen, unable to escape the suffocating presence of the thing that had trapped me here. Then the voice spoke again. "Welcome home." This time, it wasn't just a whisper in the dark. It was everywhere, coming from the walls, the floor, the very air I breathed. It reverberated through me, rattling my bones. I wanted to fight it. I wanted to run, but I couldn't even move. The terror was like a weight on my chest, pressing down, suffocating me. I was trapped. And it wasn't just the building anymore. It was something else. Something far older, more ancient, and hungry. I felt the floor beneath me shift again. Not like before when the building had shaken. It was different this time. The floor wasn't just trembling. It moved, like it was breathing. Like the building itself had a heartbeat. Suddenly, I could feel something else. Eyes, thousands of eyes watching me from the darkness. I didn't see them, but I knew they were there. Everywhere. "You've always been a part of it," the voice said. This time closer, as if it was right behind me. You didn't think you were, but you are. All of you are. We've been waiting for you. A vision flashed before me. Quick, fleeting images of everything that had happened since I first moved into the building. The strange feeling of being watched. The scratching. The sudden silence after Mr. Peterson had warned me. I realized with a jolt that this had all been a trap from the beginning. I wasn't just here by accident. The building had drawn me in. The scratching, the noises, Mr. Peterson's cryptic warnings. They weren't just coincidences, they were all part of it. I remembered the journal he'd given me, the one with the frenzied writing. The building is alive. It was true. The building fed on us, trapped us, and when it had consumed enough, it moved on, claiming more. You live here, the voice continued, calm and almost soothing. You think you choose to stay, but you don't. The building doesn't allow you to leave. It feeds on you. It waits for you. I began to understand. The building wasn't just a structure. It was a creature, alive and conscious, feeding off the souls that came and went. And we weren't just its tenants. We were its prey. I wanted to break free. I wanted to wake up from this nightmare, to get out of this place. But there was no way out. You are mine now. The walls around me began to close in, the space growing tighter, the air heavier. It was like the building was folding around me, shrinking, squeezing. I felt the walls pressing against me, the coldness creeping into my skin, my bones, my very soul. I tried to fight it. I pushed against the walls, but it was no use. The building was alive. I wasn't escaping. And then, through the dark, I saw something, or someone. It was Mr. Peterson. He wasn't moving. He was standing still, his body slack, as if he were frozen in place. But his eyes, those hollow eyes, met mine. "It's too late," he whispered, his voice barely audible, but full of resignation. It always was. You can't escape the building. You can't escape it. You were never meant to. I wanted to run to him, but the ground beneath me shifted again. The air grew thicker, more suffocating, and then I felt it. A pull, strong, relentless, dragging me deeper into the void, pulling me toward the center of the building, toward the thing that was at its heart. "You will join us," the voice echoed, now a chorus of voices, all speaking in unison. "You are one with us now. You are part of it." And then something changed. The walls cracked open, and a wave of cold flooded over me. I fell to my knees, my hands pressing against the ground, as the air became even colder, like it was drawn from the deepest pits of the earth. Suddenly, I was in another place. Not the apartment, not the hallway, not even the building. I was standing on a cliff, looking out into an endless expanse of darkness. There was nothing but blackness, a void stretching out in all directions. The only thing that remained was the sound of scratching, soft at first, but it grew louder until it was deafening. "It's time," the voice whispered again. "It's time for you to understand." In the distance, I saw shapes moving, figures, shadows, all slowly coming closer. They weren't human. They were something else, creatures that twisted and writhed, made of darkness, made of the very void that surrounded me. And I realized, with a sickening certainty, that these were the souls of the building's victims, the tenants, those who had been consumed by the building before me. They were waiting for me. And then I understood. I wasn't just a tenant. I wasn't just trapped in this place. I was part of it. I always had been. I was just another sacrifice in the building's endless hunger. And now it had claimed me. It had won. The darkness closed in around me, and I knew it was over.